Alrighty. Hello everyone. Today we're going to go through a really quick tutorial on how to set up an InDesign document for a book, specifically for books that have both imagery and words, sort of like a research book or a portfolio. So I have a screen already pulled up here. So I'm just going to go ahead and start a new one. So I'm going to go to File, New, and Document. Um, then over here, I've got all of these options, and you can go over here and change them. I always, stick to inches. You can do vertical or horizontal. Right here, it's asking you if you want to do facing pages. Sometimes I'll do that, sometimes I won't, depending on the setup. So if you do have that checked, that will we'll go ahead and hit OK so you can see what that looks like. Um, Over here, you've got margin sizes. I usually just leave those as 0.5 inches unless I want to change it for a title block or for something specific. And so then we'll just go over here and, you can change the number of pages if you want. You can start at number one, you can start with a different number. But so I usually just leave some of these pretty standard and then edit it as needed as I go through. And so let's go ahead and hit create. So here we have our standard 8.5 by 11 page. So then over here, this is sort of the all these tools over here that you'll be using a lot. You'll be going through these windows a lot. So you've got pages, you have layers, you have links. Over here under pages, this is gonna be your main page. Here, you can go down here to create new page, and you can keep clicking that plus button and it'll keep adding pages. So this is what I meant by facing pages. You'll have a spread like you typically would a typical book. And if you don't do this, then you'll just have one page after one page after one page, which is better if you're going to be doing a digital presentation, something that somebody's going to view online. However, if you're going to be printing it and binding it in the center, sometimes it's nice to have it laid out this way so you can see what your viewer is going to see as it's open to a spread. So the thing to know about this though is that this is going to be your cover page, and um, and then you're gonna come over here and go to maybe this is a blank page, and then maybe this is your table of contents, and then over here is probably where you're going to get into the meat of the book. So just keep in mind that this is oriented in this way with only one, because it's saying, okay, this is the cover page, this is what you're going to see when you look at this book, and then once you open it, then you're going to start to see these spreads. um, Another thing over here, so up here at the top portion, these are your master pages, and you can have as many master pages as you want. I usually just have one master page, but if you have more than one, that's fine too. And then on these master pages, you can go and create something. Say you're going to have a title block. Let's make that larger. That's so tiny. Just for presentation purposes, this is my book. Period. Um, and so then that image, whatever you put on your master page, is going to appear on all these other pages. See how this says a parent? That that master is applied to all of these pages, as we can see that same thing. And so say actually over here on B parent, let's say I'm going to add some different text so we can see. No, it's not. So see over here, I've got text on this A parent and then text on this B parent. And right now you're not seeing that text appear on any of these other pages down here. But if I go over here and apply, which by I mean apply, just grab it. So click and drag and apply it there. So now down here, A master is applied to the left hand of the spread, and B master is applied to the right spread. So you can kind of see how, so in the way that this is sort of useful is say you have a title page. So say let's go back to the A parent, and let's say actually on A parent, I want to make this like my chapter heading. So in fact, let's change this font. I do not like this font. And let's make it much bigger. And let's say this is going to say chapter 1, and we're going to right align this, and maybe I'm going to bring it up here. Let's okay, that's aligned to the margins. In fact, I think I want to bring it down here actually. Let's make this smaller. So maybe these are my sorry, I'm changing my mind again. I want to make this in the middle, I think. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. So maybe this is the beginning of all my chapters. So then another thing I can do is I can go over here, right click, and say parent options for a parent, and this can be renamed. And so maybe I want to call this chapter headings, and maybe I want to say, actually I want to do a prefix of 01. And so I hit OK. And so then it looks like 01 is connected to all of these pages, except for some of these still have B on them. So if I go back to my pages, double click to go back to the pages, now all of these spreads have chapter 1. And so that's helpful. Say all of these pages are chapter 1, which means that maybe I do want this to be up here because I don't want that to be in the center at all times. But then as you're thumbing through your book, you always know where you're at, where it says, okay, this is chapter 1. So then maybe I want to do that same thing for B and C parent. So I can select this and I can copy it. And now we're going to double click on B parent. I'll get rid of this. I'll right click and I'll say paste in place. And so now, then I'll just change this to say chapter 2. And one shortcut key is to hit W, and that'll sort of give you a print preview. So it'll kind of show you, what everything looks like without the guides, without the, boxes around it. And so let's go back to our book, and let's add some more pages here. Let's say these ones, pages 8 through 13, I want to be chapter 2. Oh, you know what? Let's go back and rename our parent chapter. So let's say parent options for B parent, and I'm going to say 02. And this is also our chapter heading. So let's go back here and go, what did I say, 8 through 10? So you can click and drag. I think it looked like it was going to both of them. Okay, so now let's go back to our pages. So all of these are chapter 1. And then over here we have it starting with chapter 2. Now say on this chapter 2 heading, maybe we'll call, let's change our font to Essential Sans. I forget what your chapters are called. Maybe this is called context. I just want to show you really quickly how to change things. So in fact, let's add a line over here. Where'd my line go? There it is. Oh, because it's white. Let's make it black so you can see it. And let's make this 1 point. Now we can bring this back. hit W to kind of look at that. Let's make this font smaller. Select that and let's make it a 14, maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe an 18. Okay. So we're doing this in our master page right here. So then as we go back down, now I'm in the book and that chapter 2 context is all over chapter 2. Now say we have a page and we need to change that word for whatever reason. We like that it's in the same place, but for some reason this page is going to be a little bit different. So we can hit Control Shift and then click that text, and that will allow you to change the master. So right now, since it's a master, I can't change it. Um, and this dashed line sort of shows that it's part of the master. So for example, so we're in our book, pages 10 through 11, and let's add some text. Um, this is a text box. So you can see how this is a solid line. That means that it's part of this page and it's editable, so I can move it around. Because this is dotted, that means that it's part of the master layout and it can't be edited. However, if I need to change, if I want to change something about my master without changing the actual master page, I can just hit Control Shift and then click, and that is now a text box that I can edit. It's the same thing with lines, with images, so I can hit Control Shift and select, and now I can move that line. So that becomes really helpful, especially so you don't have to have so many masters. So a lot of times, I'll just have, sometimes I even just have one master, and I'll call this chapter headings, and then I'll change it, as needed. Say I only need, maybe there's only a chapter per spread, and so instead of having 5 to 10 master pages, I just have chapter at the beginning, and then I can just go and change each spread to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that becomes helpful if you can consolidate to have just the basic number of masters, and then you can sort of change things as needed. Okay, so next I think I'll go over layers. So you've got pages right here, and then you've got layers. And generally, I like to have at least 3 layers going on. And so I usually call one of these title block. Looks like I have caps lock on. Title block. And spell it. Hit OK. Usually I call this one images. And text. So actually, let's go back to this page right here. So right here, I have all of these things, and see how that line around it is blue. That will correspond to these layers right here. So all of these things right now are on this blue layer, which is perfect. I want it on my title block layer for the most part. But if I didn't, say I wanted it on the text layer, I can just grab this box and drag it up. And now it's all on the text layer. So as you're inserting images or writing text boxes, sometimes you might have some text that appears that you want to appear over an image. Or sometimes you're inserting things and not paying attention to which layer it's on. You can always go back and select it and then move it to the layer that you want it to be according to the layer of hierarchy. And same thing with these things, you can sort of move these around. So say, you want the images to be on the very bottom and then the title block and text to be, featured on top of that. You can drag those around. The last tab over here is called links. And this is where all of your content will live, all of the images that you bring in. So instead of placing an image, what InDesign does is it links it. So then if that image changes, it's always updating. It's always looking back to it, which is actually really helpful. So let's just show you how that's done. So you go to File and then Place, or Control D for the shortcut. And right here, I have some images. In fact, these are images from a presentation that I did for a client. Let me go back here a little bit. So inside my presentation folder, I've got, so this would be, the name of your book or the name of whatever this document is going to be for. And then in here, I have my InDesign document. I have the PDF that was created from that InDesign document, and I have a folder called links. And in here is where all of the links live that went into my document. So that, every time I change one of these sketches, it'll re-update. It'll auto update. Or say I have an image, that was taken from somewhere and then I photoshopped it. As long as that's saved with the same name in the same folder, it'll auto update, which is super, super helpful. So we're just going to add, well, I guess I'll add my Photoshop file. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, so another fun thing about InDesign, since I had that text box selected, it placed that image inside that box, which maybe you want, maybe you don't want. So I just hit Control Z because I don't want that. And we're just going to place it right here. I'm going to drag this over. You can hit Alt and then Zoom to zoom in or out, and then hit the space bar and then left click to drag the image, the box around. So I'm just going to drag these handles to make this box smaller because I don't need that large size. In fact, I can crop it as much as I want right there. The nice thing about InDesign is it has these auto guides. So you can see these guides sort of pop up and that'll help you align things. The pink ones are for centering. So you can see that's auto centering in the center. Maybe I don't want it all the way centered in the middle, so you can center it just horizontally, you can center it vertically. It's really nice to when you're setting up a book. Similarly, if you go over to the ruler, you can click and drag a guide over. So say you want all of your images to line up, you can click and drag these guides to create these sort of nice boxes that you want. And then you can drag them too. So let's go and make sure it looks like this is a green box right now. So it's not on the layer that we want. So we'll go over here and we can see that the green is selected. So I'm just going to click and drag that to my images layer so I can make sure it's on the right image or on the right layer. Then I can lock that layer so then I can't move it, which is nice sometimes, especially if you're adding text on top of or drawing lines on top of, then you know that that's not going to be moving. Another thing you can do with these images is you can change the size. So say you bring something in and it's enormous. You can go over here and change the width and the height. So I usually will constrain right here. So I'll link the two because then it'll keep its original shape and more like proportionally scale it down. And let's say for whatever reason, I want this to be 3 inches. But then it changed that whole box, you can see right here proportionally. And then I can go over here to these boxes up here, and these will do a few different things. So this will fill the frame proportionally. This will fit the content proportionally. This will fit the content to the frame, and this will fit the frame to the content. So depending on what you want to do, I usually fit the content proportionally because I just made the frame the size that I want it to be. And so now I need to make sure that the content is proportional to this frame. So then I'll go over here and click this button. And now the way that I brought it in is just scaled down to fit in that box. And notice that the original image, not the cropped version. So then I need to go back here and I can crop that even further. Um, so that's really small now. So I can also just select it and hit S for scale. And this icon in the upper left is showing you where that reference point is going to be. So the reference point right now is in the center, which maybe you want. Sometimes I do keep it there. Sometimes I'll move it to a corner. And then I'll click and drag and hit shift at the same time. So then that will scale it proportionally also. So these are sort of the basics for setting up some pages, setting up some layers, and setting up some links. So once you kind of have this down, I want you to start to think about, how do you want this spread to look? Where do you want your text to be? Where do you want your images to be? Do you want sort of a master layout that sort of guides you through it? Um, and then and then I also want you to think about your page sizes. So looks like I just dragged that over. You can also, I guess another thing to point out. This is just the frame of the image. You can double click in, and this box right here shows you that full image, so uncropped. So you can kind of move that around, which is another way to edit your images. Um, so now that you kind of know the basics for setting this up, I want you to think about, you know, what size do you want this to be? Look at books at home, at the library, at the bookstore, and look at what size those things are. So they're not all 8.5 by 11. Sometimes they are, but they're often books that are not the same size. And you might decide that based off of your style, your design sense, maybe what you want to showcase. Maybe you want it to be more of an real like image heavy book. So maybe you want a larger area, or maybe you want it to be vertical so you can have some very nice large imagery. So think about that size of book that you want it to be, because you can always change your document from the beginning over in document setup, and say right here, let's see, maybe I want this to be, let's say I want this to be a 10 by 10. Now all of my pages right here are 10 by 10. Maybe I want this to be, let's see, let's say 14 by 11. And these numbers that I'm picking are numbers that I've found in my own books on my own shelf, and notice that they were a nice proportion. I like the way that they felt in my hand. So I would advise to look at other books for that example. Don't just pick a number out of thin air. There's a reason for everything. Um, you can also go down here under your pages and change just one of the pages. So which is kind of nice. Say maybe you want, and this is, let's see, this is helpful. I actually will do this a lot when I'm creating presentations. So say I want one page to be an 11 by 17. So in my presentation, when I'm digitally presenting, I can have all my content here on this long spread, or maybe it's a wide spread. And then as I go through my presentation, go back to a typical page size. Um, so you can also change your pages intermediate. Um, okay, one last thing. See how my guides are right here? So I selected those, and those are on my text layer. So you might want to actually add another layer here and call those guides. And I like to do that so that I can lock those, or I can even turn them off if they're in the way. So keep watch of what you're putting on certain layers. Make sure all of your links are in a spot that aren't gonna be disappearing or going away. And decide what you want for your master pages. And then I think after that, then we're going to start to get into the design of things. Deciding what is the text looking like? Is it a serif? Is it a sans serif? Um, do you have a specific place where all of the images are? Do you have a specific place where all the text is on the page? So then you can kind of start to think about how you want to design the layout of your space. All right.